Hello and welcome back to Speedrun, the fast-talking video game podcast where we talk about pretty much anything that interests us. I, as always, am Jamie.
I am Jazzie, and I feel like we've switched up the intro from everything weird and retro to, just everything that interests us, you know what I mean? I was listening back when I was editing today, and I was like, this has shifted with episodes.
We've gone from just being a retro podcast to being very retro, but very, nerdy. Like, today's topic is the death of the Wii U, and I'm going to be real, the Wii U ain't retro. I mean, it's certainly dead and 6 feet under, but it's not retro.
Yeah, you're right.
Now, today as well, we have someone joining us as a guest
We
host.
do.
Would you like to introduce yourself, guest host?
No, of course not. Why would I ever put effort into things?
Oof.
Hi, I'm Ellie. I stream video games, I write about video games, and I stream video games.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I've played a couple. This ain't my first rodeo around discussing the video games.
Hell yeah.
And today we're talking about, as I said, a topic that it's near and dear to your and I's heart. I know. Jazzie, are you familiar with the Wii U?
I had a Wii U for the longest time, and I loved it.
Loved past tense?
Past tense?
I do not have it anymore. Sad face.
Oof.
Rip.
Yeah.
But that's alright. If y'all would like, I can get us started on today's 15-minute timer since we have a guest.
Yes, please. Let's do it.
Let's do it. So the Wii U, as we all know, was launched back in 2012, and the launch was lukewarm, to say the least.
Yes.
I know for the longest time, people were like, is that just a Wii add-on?
Yeah, I remember that. That was I had a friend who had it, and there was that initial confusion of do I keep my Wii? No? Yes? Kind of? Because, of course, it didn't have GameCube backwards compatibility at the time, so it was oh, if you don't have a GameCube, keep the Wii. But also, what's the point?
Right. When I saw the commercials, I saw them. It was the commercial where they were doing Wii golfing, and I was just like, oh, this is an add-on. We haven't seen this since Sega. And, they put it on the floor and you could, the putting green, and I thought it was an add-on. And it's just maybe this boosts the graphics a little bit. It's just like a tablet, and then at the end of the commercial, it also had a box, and I was like, wow, that's a new model Wii. That's really curvy. And I didn't think anything of it. I thought the U was just the tablet, and I was like, what is this? And I feel like that was really, I think that was the downfall of the Wii U, was just going down to the naming. If they named it literally anything else, I feel like it would have done so much better in the market, because no one knew what it was.
They could have even just called it the Wii 2.
They could have called it Wii 2.
Wii 2, Return of Wii.
Yes,
Wii 2.
exactly.
Not to be confused with the Switch, which is Wii 3 and Knuckles.
I don't know if I agree with it just being a marketing problem. I think it's also just got this issue where it was very clear that Nintendo wanted to do something very Switch-esque with the Wii U, and they screwed it up big time.
Yeah.
I remember, because I got a Wii U only recently. I got it for several reasons, but I'm not going to state them yet. But, one of them was the idea of, oh, I can, play a Wii U game, in my bed, which is, next to the living room. So I would take the Wii U tablet next to my living room, and it would immediately be disconnected. I'm sorry. 3 meters is too much for us. Which is just okay. So I can't take it even mobily around my house, let alone, to another person's house without taking the whole console. So
I think
that
the
was
other
a problem.
And this was coming out right at the time when Nintendo was going really big with get out and go do things, because the 3DS was out, and at this point Spot Pass was huge.
Oh, I fucking love Street Pass and Spot Pass.
Exactly. So one would think that you could, it's not wired into anything, has games on it. I can walk with 3 meters. Eventually I just unplugged it from my TV and plugged it into the wall in my bedroom and kept the actual box unit underneath my bed and just played with it in tablet mode all the time in my bed.
I think the thing as well is you could tell like the Wii really was a baby step to the Switch because the screen on the tablet itself really isn't great.
It's like, is it like 480?
I think.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
I think it might even, don't quote me on this. I think it's interlaced even.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah. It's not a looker.
Don't quote me on that, but it doesn't
Like
look great.
it's no like Tiger hand held game. There
Use
we
your
go.
words.
Thank you. It's no Tiger, but it's definitely no Switch. I would say it's on par with like the PSP maybe.
You know what I actually think the biggest problem with that console was? I think it was just the fact that like no one made games for it except Nintendo. And even then Nintendo didn't want to make games for it. Like Nintendo released a lot of really good games for the Wii U, which have now mostly been ported to Switch because they realized, oh, we can just lazily port it over and win. But the problem was like unless you loved Nintendo games only, you didn't want the Wii U. Like, I didn't want the Wii U, despite initially being interested in it, because, one, I couldn't get GameCube games on it, and two, I couldn't play anything but Wii U games on it. Like, you know, Nintendo first-party games, whereas, like, if I have an Xbox 360, I can play every major third-party title, from EA, Ubisoft, you know, Blizzard, whatever. It's just there.
And I feel like part of it was kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. I'm not sure if I'm using that metaphor right, but in the sense where the Wii U had a rough launch because the Wii U, you know, no one didn't really know what it was. Nintendo's ads during that time weren't great. Really, the only advertising Nintendo did, I think, between 2012 and 2016 that was any decent, they outsourced to Mega 64.
They did.
We stand the Reggie Fils-A-Mak.
Reggie Fils-A-Mak is my favorite, not only Nintendo ad, besides the Nintendo Muppets, but then also Mega 64 is like one of my favorite internet comedy troupes, but that's off topic. In the Wii U era, not only did we get the Nintendo Muppets, but that was also when Satoru Iwata was with us. And I can remember it was E3 2015, yeah, when they made a huge push with the Wii U and said, hey, no one bought this. Here's a ton of games that you will want to play. And it's like, yeah, I'm sold. I'm going to go get a Wii U right now. And while E3 was going on, I went to GameStop, bought a Wii U, came back home, and continued watching E3.
Well, and because what's sad is the reason the Wii U actually had some decent support that first year. It got a lot of ports from, say, the 360 and PS3 the first year it was out. But all of that dropped off, or a lot of the exclusives like Lego City Undercover slowly stopped being exclusives because no one bought the Wii U. And I'm going to be real, if I work for even a mid-sized game company, do I want to create a game for this admittedly really cool piece of tech that nobody's buying?
I mean, also, wasn't the architecture like completely... I'm trying to remember, was it still based off of... I'm trying to remember. It was based on a certain architecture, and it was different from like the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. So
it was.
So like it had this additional issue of like porting it is more difficult.
And that's the exact same reason why we see Sony having trouble just porting or allowing PS3 discs to be played on anything but a PS3. It's because the architecture of it is so weird.
You know what? Actually, I think I know the exact moment where I think the Wii U like was on its deathbed, like, and it was super early. Rayman Legends.
You think so?
I think when Rayman Legends was delayed and then put on other consoles, that was the sign to every third-party developer: don't port to the Wii U. Don't port. It's like like a game that was supposed to be an exclusive was ripped, was told, was taken off, and they were just like, well, if, Ubisoft doesn't trust them, why should I, as EA or as Activision Blizzard, trust Nintendo? And after that, like, everything just dried up at that point.
Yeah. I think that was the thing. There was definitely, because I remember one of the selling points is, like, back when it was first announced, is we are going to have third-party games. Look, it's Assassin's Creed. And then look, it's Call of Duty. But if you look again, it's also Assassin's Creed. Didn't mention we have Assassin's Creed and Call of Duty. Mind blown. And that was like one of the biggest things is like, oh man, Nintendo is actually getting into the race. They're actually looking to compete with the big dogs in the ring and put out like a quote, 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 actual console, quote, 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 for the massive quote, hardcore quote crowd. And then
Quote.
it turned into another Nintendo console of exclusively Nintendo games, which I say that as someone who buys Nintendo consoles specifically to play only Nintendo games because I love them.
Well,
Like, if you know what you're getting yourself into with a Nintendo console, and that's like a good thing and everything, and then the Switch has really just like exploded, and I congratulate them for that. But I think the Wii U really appeals to people who like really, really love like the first party titles like me.
Well, now I'm thinking about the Switch because I'm going to be pretty upfront in the fact that, like, I'm not the biggest Nintendo fangirl. Like, I had an N64 and a Wii growing up, but, like, I swapped over to Microsoft and then to Sony, and I'd been pretty okay at the time with not having anything from Nintendo at that point. What got me into the Switch was the fact that I could play a lot of games that weren't Nintendo exclusives on the go, but also it was like, oh, it also gives me the chance to play games like Breath of the Wild, which turned out to be like one of my favorite games of all time. The Wii U, I got it like this summer or last summer in 2020, and the reason I got it was to make it an emulation box because it was a dead console, but it has decent emulation capacity because it's been busted wide open.
Actually, it's funny that you mentioned Breath of the Wild because I know a lot of people who are like, "Oh, I'm holding off on the Wii U until the new Zelda comes out." You know, new Zelda, new. And then Breath of the Wild was pushed back, and now we know it was so it could be a Switch game, right? Mm-hmm. The funniest thing about Breath of the Wild is it was originally intended as a Wii U exclusive.
Yeah.
It is the only first-party Nintendo game on the Wii U that I can think of that just doesn't use the gamepad. Like, literally, the only use of the gamepad is you can press the gamepad to switch between having it on the TV or having it on the gamepad. You can't even use it for, like, menus or anything.
Yeah, and, like, once the Switch came out, the Wii U was completely obsolete. Like, yes, you could save, like, what, $100 maybe Canadian on it, but, like, at that point, it's like, yeah, but you can play, you know, top-tier games on a 720p screen on the go. Or you can play it at the same rate, at the same same resolution of 1080p on your TV that the Wii U has. And at that point, it's just like, yeah, it was dead. Like, there was no reason to buy it unless you were incredibly stripped for cash.
I think...
Right, and
oh, go on.
what I was going to say was, I think it's extremely prophetic talking about how Breath of the Wild got the same exact treatment that Twilight Princess did. How it came out on both consoles, and how funny it is that Twilight Princess got an HD remaster to the Wii U. And I will forever be salty that we do not get Wind Waker HD or Twilight Princess HD on the Switch, because that would instantly sell me on rebuying a Switch instantly if I could play Twilight Princess, which is my favorite Zelda game of all time, next to Ocarina, of course. But outside of Ocarina, it is Twilight Princess.
I don't know why, but I could somehow, like, I know Nintendo's been on a kick of, like, re-releasing games lately, and I could somehow see them, like, just bundling all like, bundling, like, maybe even maybe a regular, just upscaled port of Skyward Sword with Wind Waker HD and Twilight Princess HD and doing it as a kind of thrown together re-release like Mario 3D
Zelda
All-Stars.
3D
Yeah, I
All-Stars.
said it.
Jinx.
What's that? What's that? I thought it was a pretty thrown together re-release that's really not worth the asking price.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
We're getting spicy. I mean, yeah, Super Mario
Spicy.
3D All-Stars is not good. But
Canceled.
yeah, I mean, I guess it's just interesting for me because, like, the Wii U, it's very ironic to me that, like, I have found the purpose in the Wii U as someone who uses it after it is, like, dead and buried, because I could take its corpse, rip it open, and just be like, I can play every Nintendo game before the Wii U on this console completely fine, with the exception of, like, some shoddy N64 emulation on it, because I don't know why. That might just be how I modded it, but, you know, like for me, I find that incredibly ironic that I found a use for it hacked and dead and unsupported. Whereas like when it was, supported and Nintendo was trying its best to keep it alive, I was like, I don't care. You have nothing to offer me right now.
Literally.
We have about a minute and a half left on the timer, and so I just want to ask, and what do we each think was the biggest source of missed potential with the Wii U? Ellie, since you're our guest, would you like to go first?
Simple. They lost the third-party crowd. It immediately made it so that it was like, if you're not a Nintendo fanboy, you're not getting this console, because there's just no third-party support, which, as soon as you lose that, like, you've got, like, what was it? The Wii U sold, like, 18 million copies? Or
something like that.
Like, that's how many hardcore Nintendo fanboys there are.
Jazzie, what do you think?
I think not only like the hardcore Nintendo fans missing, being like directly marketed towards them in the third party. I think the biggest thing is marketing. Just personally, I think marketing is what really screwed the pooch for me and like a bunch of other people.
No, absolutely. I'm going to go off on a weird spot with this, but it's such a good emulation box now. It had some really cool potential for Virtual Console. It was the first system since the original release, to get Earthbound. There are DS games, but it was so underutilized. The fact that they didn't release some sort of Super Game Boy type thing, even just for DS games.
Okay, you're saying it's more Nintendo's own fault with not putting out content than it is anyone else.
Absolutely, because here's the thing: if Nintendo really look, I'm using the Virtual Console thing as specifically because as someone who likes to record their own gameplay for videos, the DS emulation is serviceable enough on the Wii U that I would have been fine with more than just sorry, that's the timer, but I'm going to finish up this tangent. But more than just 20 games. Mm-hmm. But no, I think Nintendo could have really pushed hard. They could have done some more ports and stuff. Like look at the Switch. They haven't put out a ton of original titles, but people absolutely eat up all the Wii U ports because no one bought a Wii U. Like, it was such a big deal when they re-released Earthbound on the Virtual Console. If not via Virtual Console or like downloadable titles, I think they could have just done more ports, like the Zelda ports, and that would have propped it up. What I'm saying is that Nintendo is partially to blame for the lack of content on it.
Fair.
But that's my take. That's my spicy hot take. Sweetened with sriracha.
Yeah, either way, it's Nintendo's fault.
Yes, either way, it's Nintendo's fault. But I like the Wii U. I think it's to bring this back up, it looks very nice on a shelf when I remember to dust it.
I like the music on the Homebrew channel.
Oh, so do I.
So good.
So with that, I have been Jamie.
I've been Jazzie.
Oh,
y'all said that.
We are the same now.
It's true.
Ellie, where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/the_Callaway. I stream sporadically and I stream a lot of things. That's mostly where you can find me. Don't find my Twitter account. Just don't.
And you also write over at Infinite Frontiers.
I do. I'm a writer for Infinite Frontiers. So if you go to Infinite Frontiers, then you can see some of my articles.
Yes. And of course, if you've enjoyed this episode, then feel free to support Speedrun by subscribing to the Stuff We Patreon. We even have a physical merch tier at $30 there. And, get early episodes, since patrons do get episodes a week early. And also, if you have ideas for future episodes, and you can either message me directly on Twitter at StuffWePlay, or via email at jamie@stuffweplay.com, or even contact Jazzie at jazzie@stuffweplay.com. Jazzie, am I forgetting anything?
Twitch.
Yes, you can find me at twitch.tv/Jamie_plays_stuff. And then you have a Twitch as well, don't you?
I do. I've been playing a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! On my Twitch lately, and I've been having... Excuse me, I just got a little frog in my throat there. We've been having a lot of fun on my Twitch. It's really chill there. Twitch.tv/Jasmine Starshine if you want to see some children's card games.
Hell yeah. We like children's card games, especially on motorcycles.
Sans motorcycles.
Oof. But with that...
Oof.
Thank you very much for listening. Stay classy, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.